Hey guys, Steve here, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about Diablo 3. Diablo 2 was a game that was very near and dear to me, so I didn't want to rush into any harsh judgments on its sequel and have people accuse me of looking back on D2 with rose-tinted glasses, or whatever. Well now, D3 has been out for a good few months, and I've had more than enough time to get a feel of it, and more importantly, figure out, at least in my opinion, what's wrong with it. By the way, what you're seeing in the background is a speed run of Act 1 Inferno on my wizard. A link to his build is in the description. I've got pretty average gear at around 40k life and 22k damage, but this is what I found to be the most efficient way to farm Act 1. Please enjoy. Now I'm going to discuss a few things in this video, but it all pretty much ties back to my one main point. Blizzard are treating Diablo 3 like it's World of Warcraft. Now while certainly borrowed more than a few assets from Diablo 2, it was still at its core a completely different game. After all, one was an MMO and the other was an action RPG. I want to start by saying that the core game, like the engine behind Diablo 3, is fantastic. The skill and rune system is a thing of genius, and it really captures the Diablo vibe. I mean, the game is really fun to play. However, once you get past the numbingly easy normal mode and move into Nightmare, Hell, and eventually Inferno, WoW's influence really starts to bleed through. First, let's look at items. Items in Diablo 3 are boring. While Diablo 2 certainly had its own share of junk affixes, I mean, I'm sure you'll remember increased light radius, the majority of the really cool affixes in Diablo 3 are ignored in favor of the WoW-style primary stat plus vitality plus a stat unique to the gear slot. Gloves, for example, are almost completely worthless if they don't have a primary stat, vitality, crit damage, and crit chance. Having best affix combinations is both boring and frustrating. It also doesn't help that items have a chance to roll multiple primary stats. I mean, what possible use is a pair of gloves with both strength and dexterity? Diablo 2 had some crazy on-hit affixes that had huge proc rates. In D3, on the other hand, we have 1.5% chance to stun. 1.5%? What the hell is that? I mean, on WoW boss fights that last up to 10 minutes, I'm sure 1.5 is huge. But most D3 battles, as you can see from the footage playing, are lucky to last more than a minute. Legendaries are underwhelming, with standard blue magic weapons being better than most legendary weapons, and legendary item set bonuses being, well, terrible. The Tal Rasha set in Diablo 2 gave 13 additional bonuses to offense, defense, and utility. In Diablo 3, plus 3% to fire, lightning, and cold damage. Wow. Now, let's have a look at the game's post-release support. Blizzard are famous for offering a tremendous amount of post-release support for their games, with patches containing game balances and occasionally additional content. One of the very first patches to Diablo 3 nerfed the amount of gold dropped by pots. Additional patches have systematically nerfed several viable farming spots, class ability combinations deemed too overpowered, repair costs, and item affixes that they felt people were stacking due to their usefulness. These sound like reasonable patches, if the game was an MMO. Why, for example, are farming locations being nerfed? Diablo 3 is essentially a single-player game. The current endgame grind actually punishes you for playing in a group, so much people simply prefer to farm by themselves, as it's much faster and much more efficient. It's not exceptionally difficult to beat the end boss of the game, so there's no competition to gear up and try and beat the hard challenges like in World of Warcraft. There's also no PvP as of yet, so they don't have to worry about people getting a leg up by over-farming particularly good locations. So why does it matter if some guy wants to spend the majority of his playtime smashing pots in a crypt? Who cares if someone finds a wizard skill combination that works really well and just melts everything's face? Jay Wilson has actually gone back on two key quotes he made with this post-patch support. The first one he said was, "We don't mind if people find things that feel like they broke the game." And the second is, "You can find the best item in the game out of a pot." It feels too much like Blizzard is telling us you can only have fun the way we want you to have fun. My final gripe brings us back to what I'm actually doing in this video, farming Act 1. My character has progressed pretty far into Act 3, and to be honest, I could probably finish the game if I really wanted to. So why am I farming Act 1 over and over instead of actually trying to progress? There were two major post-patch changes that brought us here. The first was the insane, doubling or tripling of repair costs for level 60 gear. The second was the changing of drop rates so that the best items in the game have a chance to drop in Act 1. Sure, the drop chance in Act 1 is much smaller than it is in Act 2, but I can run through Act 1 in a fraction of the time that Act 2 or 3 takes me, with very minimal risk of dying. When I'm trying to play Act 3, if I die more than 4 or 5 times, I've actually lost gold on that run, which means it's costing me gold to just try and progress in the game. I mean, can you see what's wrong with this? Anyway, all of this ties back to my original argument of Blizzard trying to balance this game like it's World of Warcraft. The reason for this is obvious. They want players to use the auction house. This is a no-no. While the auction house is a nice little feature to have, it shouldn't be so integral to the game. I mean, it's completely against the whole feel of Diablo. Jerry Holkins of Penny Arcade summed it up best. He said, "Diablo is a piñata." I mean, you can always go to the store and buy candy, but the whole fun of the piñata is hitting it and getting the candy from inside. My solution? They should completely reverse their philosophy on nerfs. When an item or a farming location or a stat is deemed too overpowered, don't nerf it, buff something else. The attack speed nerf could have easily been taken care of by giving buffs to crit damage and crit chance. Farming jars for gold could have been fixed by upping the drop rate of gold or monsters. Until Blizzard stopped trying to balance the game around possible abuse of the auction house, I don't really see this game ever measuring up to the glory and longevity of Diablo 2. Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, check out my blog. There's a link to it in the description. There's also a link to my wizard build, like I said earlier, if you want to check that out.